Before we start this session, this last final session of our weekend, Holiday's asked to read a prayer for the youth.
Thank you. As Rain mentioned earlier, we have a very dear friend who worked tirelessly in service for the youth. I don't think there was a time I remember he wasn't lifting a child or being of service to someone. The last photograph we have of him was taken at Thanksgiving, lifting our son above his head, and for all the children, hundreds and hundreds that he touched, is laid to rest today. O my Lord, I am a child of tender years. Nourish me from the breast of thy mercy. Train me in the bosom of thy love. Educate me in the school of thy guidance, and develop me under the shadow of thy bounty. Deliver me from darkness. Make me a brilliant light, and free me from unhappiness. Make me a flower of the rose garden. Suffer me to become a servant of thy threshold, and confer upon me the disposition and nature of the righteous. Make me a cause of bounty to the human world, and crown my head with the diadem of eternal life. Verily, thou art the powerful, the mighty, the seer, the hearer. Abdul-Baha.
All right, we'll go on with the reading and see what other things we come up with here.
O inmost part of this temple, we have made thee the dawning place of our knowledge, and the day spring of our wisdom unto all over in heaven and on earth. From thee we have caused all sciences to appear, and unto thee shall we cause them to return. And from thee shall we bring them forth a second time. Such indeed is our promise, and potent art we to effect our purpose. Ere long shall we bring into being through three exponents of new and wondrous sciences of potent and effective acts, and shall make manifest through them that which the heart of none of our service hath yet conceived. Thus do we bestow upon whom we will whatsoever we desire, and thus do we withdraw from whom we will what we had once bestowed. Even so do we ordain whatsoever we please through our behest.
Baha'u'lláh elaborates this concept in the Tablet of Wisdom towards the end, where he says, for example, there was a time when we instilled into the Greeks all of the knowledge that we wanted, and then at a later time it was withdrawn again. So it's interesting that. He talks about some inventions there that existed in the past for communicating sounds over long spaces. He said it's been lost. The knowledge of it comes and goes according to how God wants it to come or not. And curious in that respect is how many countries claim different inventions. The inventor of the telephone, you'll probably find 6 countries that say we invented the telephone. And how many of them say we were the first ones to fly? When it was time to fly, it came into the minds of scientists all over, and it comes out. Curious, kind of. Maybe someone could do a study of that, of parallel developments when they happen.
So does that mean everything comes from the divine realm? That we really don't think of anything here on our own? That's fine, right?
I think that's a safe thing to say. Yeah, it's probably radical, but it's safe to say. All good comes from God and all evil from your own selves. If you invent a cannon that kills millions, I don't know whether you have to attribute that to God or not.
But it's still that receptive person's mind that is the one that brings it forth to the physical world.
And some of those inventors are not terribly spiritual minded, but they are focusing on trying to understand these people who are trying to understand the science are the likely ones to, they're at the threshold waiting for the door to open. When it opens, they go in instead of playing in the meadow down below and not caring.
What do you think is the role of the concourse in that process, in the creative process, bringing forth arts and invention?
Well, I'm very complimented you thought I might be able to answer such a question.
Well, you're creating every day.
Moving right along.
We hope you're inspired to let us know.
Well, what does it say? It says that these detached souls, in other words, the sanctified souls, I think that we were referring to earlier, are there's a whole implied, it's mysterious, but implied how they come down, and how they interact with us. I think we're a lot more accompanied than we have any idea of. And maybe the implication of that is that we have to appear to be making decisions on our own, but we're choosing what are being offered to us of both the bad and the good. We've got the influence of the lower self, and yeah, it's mysterious, very mysterious. Sorry, I did not answer your question. Okay. Yep.
Somewhat related, but not with the writings in mind. This idea of scientific inventions coming and going in the past. Always when I think of the wonders of the past, the pyramids or the circles that are seen, or the monasteries on hillsides, and when we marvel about how did they engineer these things, and how did any of those marvels of the past that we haven't figured out how they were done or engineered. I've always thought that there's, and I probably got it from the Baha'i writings, that there were sciences of the past, knowledge of how to use the earthly powers and the laws, the scientific laws, in a different way than we have figured out to use them now, and they've receded, and it may not be new laws, but we've just picked and chosen from a different set and developed and used them. And what I wanted to mention before the break was that these 3 paragraphs about the sciences and the others about hidden mysteries it brings to mind one of the fields that I like to dabble in but really know nothing about, so I'll throw out a few words. In physics, with their belief now that there's dimensions beyond the space and time dimensions that we currently know, and there could be as many as 7 or 14 or 27 depending on which string theorist, and that there's multi-universe and parallel universe and universes within universes, and that some of these dimensions are within dimensions, and the scientists are coming to the realization that we physically do not have the capacity to see into them. We can't even build the instruments that can see into them. But we can extrapolate that they exist, and we can use the rules and the principles of knowing about them even though we can't physically access them. And one of my favorite things is the expression, the event horizon, which describes the area around a black hole which sucks in light, and no light escapes from it. So scientists can go, they recognize they can go as far as the event horizon, and they can see nothing beyond that, because we require light to see. And there's nothing, and because light doesn't escape back from that dense gravity that's in there, we can't see beyond that event horizon. And whenever I'm reading in the writings, the horizon that implies that we can't see beyond, and it's the manifestation, I think of the event horizon of the black hole, that we simply don't have the capacity as human beings to go there.
Yeah, the furthermost tree.
And so in that way, I'm seeing science and religion starting to come closer and closer together as they realize that there's mysteries that we do not have access to.
Right. Bob?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this great anxiety which you see in popular culture reflected over and over again, the growth of artificial intelligence, for example, and the fear that somehow we will invent a machine which will no longer need us because we'll be able to reason so quickly. And the other part of it is our ability to create life itself by cloning or by genetic manipulation and that sort of thing. So there's this fear that science is somehow moving into areas where we assume a role of creation which we can no longer control, and which might be, given our anxieties, somewhat malevolent in terms of its treatment of us. And this paragraph is very comforting to me in contemplating those possibilities in terms of how sin, the growth of science, controlled by and is under the direction of God.
Mm. Everything is in the palm of his hand, if you can think of the palm of the hand of such an infinite creator and creation.
Yeah, all he has to do is clap his hands and whoop, their hands there.
Just squeeze a little bit and that's the end of it, huh? Something else, Barbara?
I wanted to share that quotation I shared with you during our break.
Yeah?
It's by Baha'u'llah, and it relates to the discussion of the readings prior to our break. The Son of Truth is the Word of God, upon which depends the training of the people of the country of thought. It is the spirit of reality and the water of life. All things owe their existence to it. Its manifestation is ever according to the capacity and coloring of the mirror through which it may reflect. For example, its light, when cast on the mirrors of the wise, gives expression to wisdom. When reflected from the minds of artists, it produces manifestations of new and beautiful arts. When it shines through the minds of students, it reveals knowledge and unfolds mysteries.
Fascinating.
Quote from where?
Baha'u'llah, Tablet of Baha'u'llah.
The reference?
It was in Baha'i Revelation by Thornton Chase.
That's an old source, but there's a newer version of it, and I think it's in this house made a selection of Inspiring the Heart. I think it's in there. You should be able to find Son of Truth for Son of Truth. And the first part of the phrase was the Son of Truth is the what?
The Word of God.
Yeah, I think you can find it that way. This summer, oddly enough, I was invited to a dinner in London, and there was a professor there from one of the universities. And after a while in the evening, he kind of opened up. He said he's the head of a group that chases around England to take photographs and cognizance of the geometrical shapes which are projected by winds and weather onto a field all at once. They manifest themselves, and he says sometimes you can get in the middle of it, and it's just very. And he's written a book, and he has the designs of it, and everything. Strange things, really rational, perfectly rational at the dinner party. It's yeah. There's so many things we don't know, you know.
Yeah.
I think that we're fortunate we have the words of Baha'u'llah that are much clearer than the impressions on wheat fields. As interesting as they may be. He didn't seem to think so. Okay. So we'll go on with the reading then?
Say, should we choose at one time to shed the radiance of our loving providence upon the mirrors of all things, and at another to withhold from them the splendors of our light, this verily lieth within our power, and none hath the right to ask why or wherefore. For we are potent indeed to achieve our purpose, and render no account for that which we bring to pass. And none can dispute this, save those who join partners with God and doubt his truth. Say, nothing can withstand the power of our might, or interrupt the course of our command. We exalt whomsoever we please unto the realm of supernal might and glory, and should we so desire, cause the same to sink into the lowest abyss of degradation. O dwellers of the earth, would ye contend that if we raise up a soul unto the Sadratul Muntaha, it shall then cease to be subject to the power of our sovereignty and dominion? Nay, by mine own self, should it be our wish, we would return it to the dust in less than the twinkling of an eye. Consider a tree. Behold how we plant it in a garden, and nourish it with the waters of our loving care. And how, when it hath grown tall and mature, and brought forth verdant leaves and goodly fruits, we send forth the tempestuous gales of our decree, and tear it up by its roots, and lay it prostrate upon the face of the earth. So hath it been our way with all things, and so shall it be in this day. Such, in truth, are the matchless wonders of our immutable method, a method which hath ever governed, and shall continue to govern all things, if ye be of them that perceive. None, however, knoweth the wisdom thereof save God, the all-powerful, the almighty, the all-wise.
Just a question, is this the response that people say, how can a loving God allow such evil?
May I add to that question?
Please.
Add to the question, not the answer. Closely allied with that question is what a friend said to me recently. The vengeance of God that's shown in the Old Testament, where just cities are wiped out. It's passages like that that prevent people from wanting to explore religion, because if God is not kind, compassionate, and loving, full stop, period, they can't accept the idea of wrath or consequences or, these things that look grievous to us. And I used this idea of the gardener in a very quick conversation with him, and it wasn't satisfactory. What are complementary writings that might help us bridge that discomfort they have with a, what do you call
A vengeful God.
a vengeful God, or one that just does things on whim? That can
Or
just
appear to do.
appear to do things on whim.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some of the bridges that we can use to assist that question?
Well,
you
I
just
think
asked?
whatever we do, the problem's not going to go away, because he is a wrathful God, and there are times when he punishes with terrific strength. And the implications of destroying peoples and tempests that befell people and so on are in the Quran, all through the Quran as well. So, but I'm sorry, I don't like the way God is, so I'm not going to believe in him. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's still God. He's still a creator, and you're going to be responsible to him. So, sometimes are we the ones to judge what's right and wrong? And if we say whims, for heaven's sake, who are we to judge that? Dr. Mahajer once, he was quoting from a passage when traveling, and he said, Baha'u'llah says that, he said the floods that have recently invaded Iran, the terrible floods, he said they're from the tears of the orphans of the martyrs.
Say that again.
The floods afflicting Iran are caused by the tears of the children of the martyrs.
Say again the source of that?
I don't have it. Dr.
No, but I
Mahajer
mean,
told.
Dr. Mahajer said it was Baha'u'llah's.
Yeah, it's Baha'u'llah's words, yeah. And there's a few other things like that that implies that moral actions or lack of them produce calamities. There's so many calamities right now. I suppose in the golden age we're going to have all these terrific physical calamities all the time? You can't tell what's...
Is that justice or vengeance?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the point. Again, is it a whim or is it some wisdom to that we don't understand it? He says, all traces of the past at the end of cycles are destroyed, obliterated. So we don't know about the former universal cycles. We're in a universal cycle now. We don't know about the former ones, except that Abdul says they were there and they were at the end. Everything was destroyed. So the earth changes and all kinds of things happen. Science tells us there's every 500,000 years there's a reversal of the magnetic fields of the planet. That must cause a bit of excitement. We seem to be overdue for one.
But
Who knows?
is vengeance an attribute? Or, justice clearly is.
Yeah.
But if God's justice is the cause of of some of these events? I mean, is it,
He says it's just as we say it's vengeance. Is that
yeah,
fair?
But he
You
says
know, how do we know?
he says he's a vengeful God, I think, in the Bible.
Yeah. No, the Old Testament is there. I don't know what they do with that, but the I think it's impossible to completely divorce these things from reality in the sense of if we make a sweetie, lovey God, then I'll think about listening to you. Otherwise, I'm not going to listen to you. I don't want to hear these negative things about God. But sure. Okay.
Maybe it's
Be careful what we present. Huh?
man having free will.
Acquired knowledge keeps coming to my mind too. That's something we keep hitting, is this all loving being maybe our own acquired knowledge, common knowledge.
Yeah. Things that are happening now. So many people saying, don't talk to me about religion, spirituality, but don't talk to me about religion. What?
Your wife.
My wife? Hello, wife.
Yeah.
What can I do for you?
I think one of the things that sometimes helps in these conversations, very seldom, but sometimes, is that we're mainly thinking in terms of this world. And we've lost the whole fact that eternity goes on for the soul forever. So the soul who is cut short in this world, I mean, to a person who is completely materialistic, that sounds like the ultimate disaster.
right.
But I think in the light of the Baha'i writings, that's far from the case.
So some of the passages that would indicate the soul moving on and always developing and...
Yeah, and the gardener having to transfer the small plant into a larger pot, or the pruning, and all kinds of examples in the writings. As I say, sometimes it helps.
This is the question in theology that is called Theodicy, and it's one of the oldest questions that people with faith have ever asked. St. Augustine asked it. It was, it's been the subject of great debate for thousands of years, and Marilyn just gave the exact answer that St. Augustine basically came up with, that what is it that we fear? Do we fear the next world? Is death the ultimate tragedy? No, of course not. In fact, it may be the ultimate bounty.
There was a rabbi that wrote a whole book about that. Why do bad things happen to good people? It was a big bestseller, and it was a very good book.
The death of the innocents, Abdu'l-Baha makes reference to that at the end of one of the chapters in God's Bio. It's children who die in calamities, or soldiers who die in battles. It's their fault. They got sent and they got better. And Abdu'l-Baha says there are laws in the next world related, recompensing all these different things. I mean, okay, you're born handicapped. That has a recompense in the next world. Everything has a balance, so there's a justice in it. And how can we decipher the wisdom of why he wiped out a certain tribe of people at a certain time? We don't. It's impossible to discern it. Certainly the tone of Baha'u'llah's, the progressive revelation, we're in a very different tone area as far as the things that God is telling us through the manifestation. I think we should read the past revelations through his revelation, not directly taking the traditional acquired knowledge of that revelation. That's not the truth of Christianity nor of Islam. And it may have gone way off base. And from my reading back from the Baha'u'llah's writings, I think they're way off base on so many things. Please.
Mr. Dunbar, I think that it would serve all of us to look back to something you said yesterday about making Baha'u'llah the center of our lives. And that love is so fierce that none of these calamities even, trouble us or throw us off, that we're just so in love with him that that's all we can think about.
And that embodiment somehow projects to other souls around us when we're dealing with them, rather than coming back to this very rational arguments and picking stuff like that. There's an attitude that we have towards that transcends everything else and helps, I think, in the healing of people.
Helps us abandon our opinions.
Yeah.
Maybe.
on the other hand, Abdu'l-Baha, when he gave an interview to the New York Herald, and they asked him about the Titanic disaster, he talked about all these things and the mercy of God, the inscrutability and mystical components of huge disasters like this, and then he said, nevertheless, we should build the best ship we can.
Yeah, honey?
With regard to is God vengeful or whatnot, it just reminds me, I don't have a definitive answer about that, but years and years ago I was called upon to answer a certain letter about somebody who was worried about some particular thing. Anyway, frankness and love came up in this conversation. So I did a word search, and frankness I think came up twice in the entire Revelation. And love, at that point, we had different tools. At that time, it was like 3,500 references to love. And the same, I think, applies to ever forgiving. I notice almost every prayer ends with ever forgiving. So if we need to say at some point that God is vengeful, and we have to figure out what the different parameters around that might be, how his justice is working, I think we can console ourselves with the fact that he's definitely very forgiving and so on.
Taking another tack, how many times does the word fun appear in the?
Half of them appears.
You compare that to how many times it appears on Google, and everything is all fun-based, and nothing in the Revelation. I don't know if you
She's been
see
had
what.
her hand up for-
Please, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, that I don't know if I ever fully understand a lot of this to give me a piece of, but what I go to often is the couple lines in a prayer that says, armed with the power of thy love, nothing can ever hurt me, and with thy name, nothing can ever hurt me, and with thy love in my heart, all the world's afflictions can in no wise alarm me. And I just make that a mantra.
Nice.
Be able to-
Yeah.
We should also just turn off our TVs.
Hey, hey.
After the game.
I found out that if you don't pay the bill, they turn it off anyway. So.
Well, there is Super Bowl Sunday. So.
Go to a bar.
Mr. Dunbar?
Yes.
I was wondering, would it be all right if I read that passage from Isaiah? It's kind of a different movement.
Sure, why not? Yeah, but-
And it ties in with paragraph 67 and 68. 67 we read, potent art we to effect our purpose. In 68 it says, for we are potent indeed to achieve our purpose. And this is from, Shoghi Effendi referred to Isaiah as the greatest of the Jewish prophets. That's with a small p, the greatest of the Jewish prophets. And this is from the King James Bible version in Isaiah.
What verse?
55, 9 and through 55, 12. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void. For it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. For ye shall go out with joy, and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands.
There's something I always like to remember is that Baha'u'llah tells us that nothing can befall his loved ones except that which shall benefit them,
Profit.
profit them. And so when things come, that's something I constantly want to remember.
Yeah.
Is that it's for my benefit in some way.
I'm glad we don't have the month of vengeance though on the calendar. I know I've lived that month.
Yeah, instead we have will.
Okay, people, are you running out of concentration here on the text?
Are we trying to get it back?
We're getting silly, it's nice.
Feeling good.
The end of that comes at the end of all this kind of concentrated attention here. Going on with reading then?
Would ye gainsay, O people, the very thing that your eyes behold? Woe unto you, O assemblage of deniers! That which alone is exempt from change is his own self, the all-merciful, the compassionate. Were ye to gaze with the eye of insight, while all else beside him can be altered by an act of his will. He verily is the all-powerful, the almighty, the all-wise. O people, dispute not concerning my cause, for ye shall never fathom the manifold wisdom of your Lord, nor shall ye ever gauge the knowledge of him who is the all-glorious, the all-pervading. Whosoever layeth claim to have known his essence is without doubt among the most ignorant of all people. Every atom in the universe would charge such a man with imposture, and to this beareth witness my tongue, which speaketh not but the truth. Magnify my cause, and promulgate my teachings and commandments, for none other course beside this shall beseem you, and no other path shall ever lead unto him. Would that ye might heed our counsel.
That's a wonderful verse to carry off as the outcome of all of this study. Try to put that in action. Magnify my cause, promulgate my teachings and commandments. No other path, none other course beside this shall beseem you. No other path shall ever lead unto him.
Dispute not concerning my cause.
That's, you know, he says that. Somebody opposes you when you say something, don't argue with them. It's so easy to want to, you know, press your point, but it's not in the spirit of the cause. You can offer to say, well, perhaps there's another meaning to this, but it's a really challenge to keep calm in the middle of some of those things that people throw at you. O living temple.
O living temple, we have made thee the dayspring of each one of our most excellent titles, the dawning place of each one of our most august attributes, and the fountainhead of each one of our manifold virtues unto the denizens of earth and heaven. Thereafter have we raised thee up in our own image betwixt the heaven and the earth, and ordained thee to be the sign of our glory unto all who are in the realms of revelation and creation, that my servants may follow in thy footsteps, and be of them who are guided aright. We have appointed thee the tree of grace in bounty unto the dwellers of both the heavens and the earth. Well is it with them who seek the shelter of thy shade, and who draw nigh unto thyself, the omnipotent protector of the worlds. Say, we have made each one of our names a wellspring for which we have caused the stream of divine wisdom and understanding to gush forth and flow in the garden of our cause, streams whose numbers none can reckon save thy Lord, the most holy, the omnipotent, the omniscient, the all-wise. Say, we have generated all letters from your point and have caused them to return unto it, and we have sent it down again in the form of human temple. All glory be unto the author of this incomparable and wondrous handiwork. Ere long shall we unfold and expound it again in our name, the all glorious. This is indeed a token of our grace, and I truly am the most bountiful, Ancient of Days.
Let's go on from here as well. That seems fairly straightforward for us.
We have brought forth all lights from the orb of our name, the True One, have caused them to return unto it, and have again made them manifest in the form of a human temple. All glory be unto the Lord of strength, might, and power. None can withstand the operation of my will, or the exercise of my might. I am he who hath raised up all creatures through a word of my mouth, and my power is, in truth, equal to my purpose. Say, it is in our power, should we wish it, to cause all created things to expire in an instant, and with the next, to endue them again with life. The knowledge thereof, however, is with God alone, the all-knowing, the all-informed. It is in our power, should we wish it, to enable a speck of floating dust to generate, in less than the twinkling of an eye, suns of infinite, of unimaginable splendor, to cause a dewdrop to develop into vast and numberless oceans, to infuse into every letter such force as to empower it to unfold all the knowledge of past and future ages. This, in truth, is a matter simple of accomplishment. Such have been the evidences of my power from the beginning that hath no beginning, until the end that hath no end. My creatures, however, have been oblivious of my power, have repudiated my sovereignty, have contended with mine own self, the all-knowing, the all-wise.
Occurs to me to mention, some of the friends collected the miracles of Baha'u'llah, wrote them in a book which he said should be destroyed. And maybe this gives us the impression that, there were miracles, but they're not important, they're not the proof. He says the greatest proof is the personal manifestation, and his words, his verses, and their meaning. And in another place, Abdullah says, you don't judge the effectiveness of a doctor with respect to whether he can fly around the room or not. It has to do with his medical knowledge. That's what you're interested in. But at the same time, there's a kind of, God forbid, pronouncement from Abdul-Baha that says the miracles of the Blessed Perfection are greater than the combined miracles of all the manifestations of the past, surpass anything of the sort. And there were wonders around him in all directions that he just, some of them have leaked out a little bit here and a little bit there, and the story of the gardener, where Abdullah tells the locust that the gardener doesn't want you here, and he raises his jacket and they all fly away. Simple things, but there were other stories, very, very miraculous things happening all around. So we shouldn't think to ourselves that it's something less. This is the most great revelation. This is the supreme manifestation of all things that have to do with prophets of God. He goes on to recount some more of them here. Okay.
Say, of all that lieth between heaven and earth, naught can stir except by my leave, and unto my kingdom none can ascend save at my behest. My creatures, however, have remained veiled from my might and my sovereignty, and are numbered with the heedless. Say, not is seen in my revelation, but the revelation of God, and in my might, but his might, could ye but know it. Say, my creatures are even as the leaves of a tree. They proceed from the tree and depend upon it for their existence, yet remain oblivious of their root and origin. We draw such similitudes for the sake of our discerning servants, that perchance they may transcend a mere gnat-like level of existence, and attain unto true maturity in this resistless and immovable cause. Say, my creatures are even as the fish of the deep. Their life dependeth upon the water, and yet they remain unaware of that which, by the grace of an omniscient and omnipotent Lord, sustaineth their very existence. Indeed, their heedlessness is such that were they asked concerning the water and its properties, they would prove entirely ignorant. Thus do we set forth comparisons and similitudes, that perchance the people may turn unto him who is the object of the adoration of the entire creation.
We're all sustained by spirit. Spirit? Where's the spirit? What spirit are you talking about? Same thing, fish in the water. How about the water? You depending on the water. What water? I don't see any water. This is the people of the world are so blind to the reality of things. Amazing. Okay?
O people, fear God, and disbelieve not in him whose grace hath surrounded all things, whose mercy hath pervaded the contingent world, and the sovereignty potency of whose cause has encompassed your inner and your outer beings, both your beginning and your end. Stand ye in awe of the Lord, and be of them that act uprightly. Beware lest ye be accounted among those who allow the verses of their Lord to pass them by unheard and unrecognized. These truly are of the wayward. Say, would ye worship him who neither heareth nor seeth, and who is of a truth the most abject and wretched of all God's servants? Wherefore have ye failed to follow the one who hath come unto you from the source of divine command, and the tidings of God, the most exalted, the most great? O people, be not like unto those who presented themselves before our throne, and yet failed to perceive or comprehend. These are indeed a contemptible people. We recited unto them verses that would enrapture the dwellers of the heavenly dominion and the inmates of the kingdom on high, and yet they departed veiled therefrom, and hearkened rather unto the voice of him who is but a servant of God, and a mere creation of his will. Thus do we impart unto you that which shall guide you towards the path of God's favored ones.
Again, I think this servant of God is intended to be Yahya. So go on.
How many are those who entered within the abode of paradise, the seat wherein the throne of God had been established, and stood before their Lord, the most exalted, the most great, only to inquire about the four gates, or of some imam, or of the Islamic faith. Such was the state of these souls, if ye be of them that comprehend. It is even as ye witness in the present day, those who have disbelieved in God and joined partners with him, cling to a single one of our names, and are debarred from recognizing him who is the creator of all names. We testify that such men are of a truth amongst the peoples of the fire. They ask the Son to expound the words of the shadow, and the true one to explain the utterances of his creatures, could ye but perceive it. Say, O people, the sun offereth not, save the effulgence of its own light, and that which appeareth therefrom, whilst all else seek illumination from its rays. Fear God, and be not of the ignorant. Among them also were those who inquired of the darkness about the light. Say, open thine eyes, that thou mayest behold the brightness which hath visibly enveloped the earth. This verily is a light which hath risen and shone forth above the horizon of the dayspring of divine knowledge with manifest radiance. Would ye ask the Jews whether Jesus was the true one from God? Or the others if Muhammad was the apostle of his Lord? Or inquire from the people of the Quran as to him who was the remembrance of God, the most exalted, the most great?
Say, O
Do
people.
you have the footnote
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Could read the footnote. Someone read that if they have it in front of them.
These are examples of the types of questions put to the Bab. According to the teachings of Shiite Islam, leadership of the Islamic community belonged of right after the passing of the Prophet Muhammad to a line of 12 successors, descendants of his daughter Fatima, known as the Imam. This line being eventually severed through the occultation of the last Imam, communication with the latter was for a time maintained through a succession of intermediaries, known as gates.
So they were asking questions of the Bab and of Baha'u'llah related to those things. Powerful, huh? Ask darkness about the light. That's what we have. You talk to Christians about the faith and they run off and ask the preachers. Ask them, would you gone to the Jews to ask who Christ was? And would you have gotten an honest answer?
Mr. Dunbar?
Yes.
I know the validity of the 12 imams. Are the gates, were they man-made or are they from God?
I don't
four
want
gates.
affirmation about the 4 gates. They seem to be part of Islam, of the Imam, teaching of the Imams.
It does seem to be part of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. They had a succession of them.
Is there
And,
something about that?
I was under the impression until recently about, okay, we're the supporters of Shia Islam, but there's a lot of bad things said about Shia Islam after the Imams from the writings.
Yeah.
And Baha'u'llah stole some of the Sunni practices in some places too, so it's not quite so straightforward in modern times, but certainly we do recognize the divine right of the Imamates,
Right.
that of the Imams that succeeded, and their teachings are considered infallible source of guidance as well. So, but he ended up, talking about the filthy, dirty Shias in his writings. Baha'u'llah has made some very derogatory remarks about it.
Yeah, I read somewhere that, that mullah that was in Zanjan, that he doubted the Shahis, but it was a relationship to how much the Shiites had hurt him and his family and people who loved him, all the wicked things that he was seeing that they were doing, and then he was given like a second chance to try to understand and go forward. That was what was keeping him down, the injury.
Interesting. Say, oh people, shall we go on? How are we doing? 20 minutes.
Say, O people, cast away before the splendors of this revelation the things that ye possess, and cleave to that which God hath bidden you observe. Such is his command unto you, and he verily is best able to command. By my beauty, my purpose in revealing these words is to cause all men to draw nigh unto God, the all-glorious, the all-praised. Beware lest ye deal with me as ye dealt with my herald. Do not object when the verses of God are sent down unto you from the court of my favor, saying, these do not proceed from an innate and untaught nature. For that nature itself hath been created by my word, and circleth round you, if ye be of them that apprehend this truth. Inhale from the utterances of your Lord, the All-Merciful, the sweet smell of the garment of inner meanings, which hath been diffused throughout the entire creation, and hath shed its fragrance over all created things. Happy are those who perceive it, and hasten unto God with radiant hearts. O living temple, we verily have made thee a mirror unto the kingdom of names, that thou mayest be, amidst all mankind, a sign of my sovereignty, a herald unto my presence, a summoner unto my beauty, and a guide unto my straight and perspicuous path. We have exalted thy name among our servants as a bounty from our presence. I verily am the all-bountiful, the ancient of days. We have moreover adorned thee with the ornament of our own self, and have imparted unto thee our word, that thou mayest ordain in this contingent world whatsoever thou willest, and accomplish whatsoever thou pleasest. We have designed for thee all the good of the heavens and of the earth, and decreed that none may attain unto a portion thereof, unless he entereth beneath thy shadow, as bidden by the Lord, the all-knowing, the all-informed. We have conferred upon thee the staff of authority and the writ of judgment, that thou mayest test the wisdom of every command. We have caused the oceans of inner meaning and explanation to surge from thy heart in remembrance of thy Lord, the God of mercy, that thou mayest render thanks and praise unto him and be of those who are truly thankful. We have singled thee out from amongst all our creatures, and have appointed thee as the manifestation of our own self unto all who are in the heavens and on the earth. Bring then into being by our leave resplendent mirrors, and exalted letters that shall testify to thy sovereignty and dominion. Bear witness to thy might and glory, and be the manifestations of thy names amidst mankind. We have caused thee again to be the origin and the creator of all mirrors, even as we brought them forth from thee aforetime. And we shall cause thee to return unto mine own self, even as we called thee forth in the beginning. Thy Lord verily is the unconstrained, the all-powerful, the all-compelling. Warn then these mirrors, once they have been made manifest, lest they swell with pride before their Creator and Fashioner, when he appeareth amongst them, or let the trappings of leadership delude and debar them from bowing in submission before God, the Almighty, the all-superior. Say, O concourse of mirrors, ye are but a creation of my will.
You realize the Concourse of Mirrors is a Babi institution. These are the mirrors that have been appointed under the Babi. So he's calling them to account as well.
The letters of the living?
Yes. No, beyond that. Beyond them. The people they taught.
What is it called again? The Deepening
Sorry, were there questions there?
Could you say that again?
The Concourse of Mirrors, as I understand, mirrors were one of the institutional establishments of the Bab. He has the letters of the living, but then he has mirrors and witnesses. I've forgotten. It's three categories. They were to go out and the first number that each of the letters of the living taught would be recognized, registered by the Bab, and they would be the mirrors, and there's a hierarchy there. So he's also, otherwise, who are these concourse of mirrors that we're talking about? I think it has to relate to the institutional arrangements under the Bab. That's my guess at it. Yeah, I don't have any notes to support that, so you can decide what you want. You should decide what you want. Okay, shall we go on?
Beware lest ye deny the verses of my Lord, and be of them who have wrought injustice and are numbered with the lost. Beware lest ye cling unto that which ye possess, or take pride in your fame and renown. That which behooves you is to wholly detach yourself from all that is in the heavens and on the earth. Thus hath it been ordained by him who is the all-powerful, the Almighty. O temple of my cause, say, should I wish to transform, in a single moment, all things into mirrors of my names, this undoubtedly is in my power. How much more in the power of my Lord, who hath called me into being through his all-compelling and inscrutable command. And should I choose to revolutionize the entire creation in the twinkling of an eye, this assuredly is possible unto me. How much more unto that sovereign purpose enshrined in the will of God, my Lord and the Lord of all the worlds. Say, O ye manifestations of my name, should ye offer up all that ye possess, nay, your very lives in the path of God, and invoke him to the number of the grains of sand, the drops of rain, and the waves of the sea, and yet oppose the manifestation of his cause at the time of his appearance, your works shall in no wise be mentioned before God. Should ye, however, neglect all righteous works, and yet choose to believe in him in these days, God perchance will put away your sins. And he verily is the all-glorious, the all-powerful. Thus doth the Lord inform you of his purpose, that haply you may not wax proud before the one through whom whatsoever hath been revealed from all eternity hath been confirmed. Happy is he who approaches this most sublime vision, and woe to them that transgress.
Any comments on those?
see, Hooper, do you remember the story about the believer who became an opium addict? He was, this last reading paragraph brought that to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the details of that? I don't, it's a little foggy.
There was a well-known teacher who was in Haifa with the master, and the master instructed one of the friends to take him to the pharmacy to get him some opium, because he was addicted to opium, and he didn't advertise it or reject him in the presence of the friends. It's a long-established thing. I know that's kind of a vague, but I don't know. There must be other things too.
Yeah, I had a recollection that this fellow was actually teaching in the opium den or something, and that after Pass it was all right. That he, something, but I could be off on that.
Which part was all right?
Take that under
Yeah, never
advisement.
mind. Just let that one go.
Yeah, take that under advisement.
A
That's
lot of
fine.
mischief around that story.
Yeah. All right. So, let's see what we do. We have a few paragraphs left, and we don't have too much time.
There's another session?
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's switch over to where we can read towards the end. Maybe paragraph 95. You can fill in the other ones later if you haven't read them already.
Say, alas for you, how can ye profess yourselves believers, when ye deny the verses of God, the Almighty, the All-Wise? Say, O people, turn your faces unto your Lord, the All-Merciful. Beware lest ye be veiled by aught that hath been revealed in the Bayan. It was, in truth, revealed for no other purpose than to make mention of me, the All-Powerful, the Most High, and had no other object than my beauty. The whole world hath been filled with my testimony, if ye be of them that judge with fairness. Had the primal point been someone else besides me, as ye claim, and had attained my presence, verily he would have never allowed himself to be separated from me, but rather we would have had mutual delights with each other in my days. He in truth wept sore in his remoteness from me. He preceded me that he might summon the people unto my kingdom, as it hath been set forth in the tablets, could ye but perceive it. Oh, would that men of hearing might be found who could hear the voice of his lamentation in the Bayan, bewailing that which hath befallen me at the hands of these heedless souls, bemoaning his separation from me, and grieving utterances to his longing to be united with me, the mighty, the peerless. He verily beholdeth at this very moment his best beloved amidst those who were created to attain his day and to prostrate themselves before him, and yet who have inflicted in their tyranny such abasement upon him as the pen confesseth its inability to describe.
Let's skip over to 98, skip the next paragraph, go on to 98, so we have time to read to the end.
Say, O people, I admonish you wholly for the sake of God, and seek no reward from you. For my recompense shall be with God. He who hath brought me into being, raised me up by the power of truth, and made me the source of his remembrance amidst his creatures. Hasten to behold this divine and glorious vision, the spot whereon God hath established his seat. Follow not that which the evil one whispereth in your hearts, for he verily doth prompt you to walk after your lusts and covetous desires, and hindereth you from treading the straight path, which this all-embracing and all-compelling cause hath opened. Say, the evil one hath appeared in such wise as the eye of creation hath never beheld. He who is the beauty of the All-Merciful hath likewise been made manifest with an adorning the like of which hath never been witnessed in the past. The call of the All-Merciful hath been raised, and behind it the call of Satan. Well is it with them who hearken unto the voice of God, and turn their faces towards his throne, to behold a most holy and blessed vision. For whoso cherisheth in his heart the love of anyone beside me, be it to the extent of a grain of mustard seed, shall be unable to gain admittance unto my kingdom. To this beareth witness that which adorneth the preamble of the book of existence, could ye but perceive it. Say, this is the day whereon God's most great favor hath been made manifest. The voice of all who are in the heavens above and on the earth below proclaimeth my name and singeth forth my praises, could ye but hear it.
In the last two paragraphs, someone?
Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah.
O temple of divine revelation, sound the trumpet in my name. O temple of divine mysteries, raise the clarion call of thy Lord, the unconditioned, the unconstrained. O maid of heaven, step forth from the chambers of paradise and announce unto the people of the world, by the righteousness of God, he who is the best beloved of the worlds, he who hath ever been the desire of every perceiving heart, the object of the adoration of all that are in heaven and on earth, and the cynosure of the former and latter generations, is now come. Take heed, lest ye hesitate in recognizing this resplendent beauty, when once he hath appeared in the plenitude of his sovereign might and majesty. He verily is the true one, and all else beside him is as naught before a single one of his servants, and paleth into nothingness when brought face to face with the revelation of his splendors. Hasten then to attain the living waters of his grace, and be not of the negligent. As to him who hesitateth, though it be for less than a moment, God shall verily bring his works to naught, and return him to the seat of wrath. Wretched indeed is the abode of them that tarry.
That was kind, compassionate, and loving.
Forget lunch.
Well, thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to review this book.